right in relation to the public consultation for a normal variation to the permit granted to the operators of the Welshcroft RDF transfer station. You will be unsurprised to discover that my position is one of objection. Initial meetings were held in the summer of 2017 with members of the Kirkby Action Group, the site operators and technical team, along with Mervyn Tongue of the EA and Tim Turner of NCC Planning and Enforcement. The operators were pressed a number of times on their plans for expansion, and these queries were met with absolute negation and denial. What we find in the EA draft decision is that they have attempted to act in exactly the opposite manner, endeavouring to increase the turnover of waste from 75,000 tonnes to 150,000 tonnes. I have heartfelt gratitude to the EA for advising the operator that this variation would be unlikely to be accepted, resulting in the withdrawal of this aspect of the variation proposal. What I find most troubling about this variation, and this is a general reflection on our local experience of how this operation conducts its business, is that there is an agreed and ongoing local forum that was founded in an attempt to foster some cooperation and understanding. These meetings, attended by the aforementioned EA officer, are scheduled to run a small number of times per year. The previous gathering of the Community Liaison Group was held in November 2017 with the decision made that we would reconvene in the spring of 2018. What we observe from the behaviour of the operator via the variation application dates is that an attempt was made to significantly change the arrangements and the uncomfortable acceptance of the plan before even discussing it, since the proposal was withdrawn on the 26th of January. Now, I have taken attentive notice of the fact the consultation closing date for this variation is the 20th of April, and this is because the date of the next liaison group is the 26th of April. As shown up and down the country, by my interpretation, Veolia show a devious and underhanded operating strategy, regardless of whether we are talking about operation strategy, planning, or environmental concerns. I concede that the consultation is not on how the operator conducts themselves, yet I wish to point this out, since it was this same attitude that brought the company to our doorstep. As the now retired Mr. Tongue once told us, it should never have been put that close to housing. It should never have been granted permission. With this, and the hundreds of affected families that live around the facility in mind, here are my specific comments and objections. Glass collection and storage. Any large amount of glass impacting glass creates sound frequencies which are not just loud, but also of a frequency likely to cause distress, loss of concentration, and confusion with continued exposure. I note that deliveries and collections will only occur 6 hours a day, but with expanded operation to 7 days a week. I would like to see the detailed risk assessment for the noise generated from these activities, along with an opportunity to discuss them with the operator before any final decision is made. In addition, I am deeply concerned about the ability of the glass stored to be a constant source of attraction to insects and pests. It is my firm understanding that at no point has Section 18A, Part 6 of the Waste Regulations 2011, aka Article 13 of EU Directive 2008/98/EC on waste, have been given more than a passing consideration throughout this whole debacle, apart from when the local populace complained, by which point it was too late to halt the proposition. Advice has been given that a challenge via the Human Rights Act on the grounds of multiple violations of Section 8 would likely to be successful, and also subject to the usual years of appeals. Approving this proposed variation continues to make a mockery of the families, the private lives, the homes of normal, everyday people. Whoever you are reading this, we're just like you, with the exception of our kids having to breathe the odour, pesticides and surfactants from a facility mere meters from our homes. Now it is suggested we also put up with the noise of glass collisions for 6 hours a day. Please do not do this to us. Untreated waste for storage and transfer. I'm curious as to the purpose of this variation proposal. The draft would seem to suggest that the 75,000 tonne figure would still stand, so that this proposed untreated waste for storage and transfer would be included. Would this waste be subject to the same limitations, constraints and controls as the waste received for processing? Again, without further information or discussion, I cannot say I approve. Could more information be made available as to the intent and purpose behind this before a decision is made? Could we be consulted with further, perhaps? New emission point to air. I understand that this is in relation to the improvement to control measures. Whilst I am appreciative of the filtration data for odour, what is concerning is the particulate emissions. I note all data is in relation to PM10, so at no time are the more carcinogenic PM2.5 outputs taken into account. Quote, although the long-term PC is not considered insignificant, we consider the headroom between the PEC and the EAL to be adequate to indicate that an exceedance of the EAL is unlikely. Therefore, we consider that detailed modelling is not required for the release of long-term particulate emissions from the installation. Given that such assurances were given regarding odour long before the new controls were implemented, what monitoring is the EA or other authority going to conduct to provide concrete management of this not insignificant risk, and where will that data be available to view? Apart from the obvious point to breaches of the Environmental Protection Act 1990, which could well be repeated and which the EA worked with the operator to correct, I will make reference to Part 4 of the Environment Act as regards air quality. Not the EA is to enforce, but surely a consideration in how to proceed. In short, whilst I and hundreds of others were given no consideration in the placement of the RDF facility, I ask that you give due consideration to the fact that we would have turned out en masse to oppose its construction if we had known what was being quietly pushed through. And if we would have opposed it coming into existence, please keep in mind that we thoroughly oppose any proposed expansion or variation beyond improvements to the healths and lives of those affected by its location. Thank you for taking the time to read and consider our views. Kindest regards, Councillor Trevor Walters, founder of the Kirkby Action Group.